Welcome to week number 9 of our 17-week series as we walk you through our building center, giving you an in-depth look of our building process of your new Palm Harbor home. Welcome to part 2 of our roofing system.
Welcome back, folks. Today we're at Palm Harbor's building center in Fort Worth, and we left off last week talking about wood roofs. As you can see in the wood roof jig, it's set up where the rafters are set up on 24-inch centers, and they're connected to the panels. See, these panels are set upside down with the half-inch panels. From here, after they pick that up with a hoist, it's going to go over, and if you look here, we have one of the roofs already intact for the entire home, awaiting for the home to come up further on the production line so they can take it over to the next station, and it will eventually run out to and get onto the house. So this is how they transport them up here with the dolly systems that hook onto it, and those hoists will take that entire roof in one piece over to the next production area. Let's go down there and see what they do. Now, as the hoist brings the roof section over, you can see it's suspended. It will go on to what we call a tunnel. A tunnel is when they set the roof down and the workers can work by just reaching up. That's a whole lot easier to get done. Think about it when it's in the site built. We have 8.5 ceilings here. If they had 8.5 or 9 ceilings, the people would be standing on ladders. They'd be working on the top of this. What we've done is cut out a lot of labor by the use of where we put our jigs and how high they are and what we're getting done. And when you can save labor, you can reduce the overall cost, increasing the value of the home. And that's what we've done by using this system. Let's step into the tunnel and see what we do there. All right, on the continuation of the production process, here's where the entire roof was set down in what we call the tunnel. In this area, as you can see, it's fairly easy for the gentlemen to reach this, and they work at this doing 6 and 7 of these units a day. So they got to be quite efficient. Now, let's show you what goes in at this production level. Step down here and show me. Let me show you what's going on. You can see on this half-inch gypsum panel, they've already cut the holes for places where fans and ceiling fans are going to go in, and other lighting in bedrooms and that sort of thing is going to be done. They already cut that in. The wiring is already set up on the top to come through. And while they're doing all this, they've also taped and bedded the seams between the panels. That's a little darker there. That is in the process of drying. That will dry out, then they'll sand it, and after all that's done, then they will blow that ceiling so the material is consistent throughout the entire ceiling of the home. Step down a little bit further. I want to show you what also they do. If you have an overhead duct option into a ceiling, notice how they put the bracketed overhead duct boot onto the ceiling material so that it's sealed, and that's an insulated duct too, and it's ready to receive the flexible crossover duct from the roof side. Once that duct goes in, they will blow the insulation over top of that R8 duct system, and then blow the insulation over top of that, and that helps seal it and keep it even more comfortable for you to get the cool air in the summer and warm air in the winter. So there's an overhead duct. It's already done. Here's a case of a ceiling fan. It's already been put in. It's got the bracket up above, and that's already been put down. The wires are already sticking through the roof. We do these things here while it's easier for us to get our hands on them than doing them on the production line and have to stand on a ladder and feed these wires through there. All this is done back in the tunnel area. They're getting this prepped, and after lunch today, they'll come back in, they'll blow this ceiling and have the texture put onto the ceiling, and they'll be ready then to pick the entire roof up and bring it over and put it on the home all in one piece. All right, we want to show you right here, this is the next process that's going on, and the textured ceiling has already been blown. It's maybe kind of shiny on the photograph that you're looking at here with the lighting because it's still wet. It's in the wet stage. One of the things we do to help the consumer and save a lot on the cost, we have mixed into this texture a vapor barrier. And the vapor barrier is going to keep moisture inside the home from washing, taking baths, using the sink, dishwasher, whatever you got. People even breathing puts moisture in the air. This keeps the moisture from getting into the attic when we mix it with the texture material, and it forms another operation that is required from us to make sure that ceiling gets sealed. So it's a moisture barrier put on there, and of course now you got a nice smooth ceiling where you cannot tell where the panels come together. And it's all made like this, very rugged, very tight, because sometimes we have to ship over 500 miles and we do not want it to crack. That's asking for a pretty good feat, but it does. It makes it there. I wanted to take a moment to show you what we do to make your house more comfortable, cooler in the summer, warmer in the winter, and more comfortable all year round. We use what is called cellulose insulation. Now, why this is so important is because this material is a recyclable material. So we're building green. We're taking the elements that are already in the environment and we're recycling those. And if you look really close, you could probably see some of the print off the pieces of the newspaper. They're on there, and you can see the letters and the numbers and stuff. This is brought in by these big bales. Those bales are then put into a hopper, as you can see over here. That hopper crushes those up, breaks them up, and gets them into a substance so that we can blow them through this pipe that you see down on the floor. That blown in insulation then blows into the top of your roof of your house. When these guys put this in, we already have a number and a card written in our rafters that says if you want it so many inches thick, it's equivalent to a certain R factor. Whatever that order calls for is how much they're going to blow in there. Why this is so important is because this does not itch. Doesn't like fiberglass insulation. It's also fire retardant, and it's easy to use in the plant and the environment when we put it into the home. Why it's good for the consumer is when we blow this in, the bottom cords of the rafter are covered up. If you use batten insulation that you roll out between every place there's a rafter, it's exposed. You ever seen a house on a light frost day and the roof is striped? There's no insulation a lot of places where those rafters are. Not so with the way we build. This is blown in and it's like a sea of insulation. All you can see in there too is just the insulation that's blown into the ceiling. All the rafter legs are going down in it and they're all covered up. The duct system's covered up, the ceiling fan, the wiring, and all that stuff is covered up into there. And that kind of is tacky, so it kind of sticks together wherever we blow it, it stands. So it's cellulose insulation, it's building green, it's good for the environment, and it helps you be more comfortable in your home. All right, now the roof has come over and they have placed it onto the sidewalls of the home. And you see what this gentleman right here is doing. He's taking 5-inch screws and he's screwing it into, excuse me, the 2x that goes into the top plate. The top plate is a 2-inch material, got a 2x4 here, and he's screwing a 5-inch screw, securing that roof to the sidewall. This is a good place too. You can also see, excuse me, you can also see the polyurethane foam has been sprayed on both sides of the rafter, and you've got the polyurethane foam sprayed into the boot coming in for the overhead duct system that's shown here. The next thing that's going to happen is they'll take the hoist out, up, take it back, get another roof, and as this moves over, they'll go ahead and put the insulation in on the next step. I just want to take a moment here to show you when this rafter goes onto the end of the home, look at the number of fasteners every 6 inches all the way down to 2-inch material into the 2-inch top plate on the end of the home. That is very much fastened down deep. 2-inch material there and then the fascia. Now I want to take a moment to show you what it looks like when they spray the cellulose insulation into the ceiling. Notice you cannot see any of the bottom cords of the rafters. That's all 100% insulation all the way across there. There's no gaps in between like would happen if you put batten insulation in. Also, there's a marker on some of these rafters to show you what the depth needs to be put in there for what the code is or what the consumer orders and puts in the ceiling. This is an overhead duct system. It has an R8 flexible duct that comes out of the plenum or the box where all the comes from the crossover, goes over to the room and goes into that box we showed earlier to blow down into the ceiling. That's all insulated as well. Some places it's covered up right as it goes in. The other places it's already insulated anyway. Sometimes you'll see things and say, well, what is that? There is a hose laying over here. You see it's white? It's like a 3-inch hose. That comes from the vent through the roof, like on a vent fan. When you turn it on and it sucks the air out, that hose does not go up through the roof. It goes out through the side of the roof into the eave, and you'll find a circular disc here when you go outside of your home, and you'll see where that air comes out and blows out to the bottom of the eave. The reason that's done is to prevent from ever cutting a hole in the roof and a potential problem happen 20 years down the road. You'll have peace of mind knowing that they took the time to do this right rather than cut a hole through the roof, which is typical of what happens with a lot of site builders, and they have to put a boot up there and cut a hole in the roof. We don't do that. This is a better way to get it done, and it'll give you more peace of mind about the product. Join us next week as we show the rest of the roof build system on what happens after they finish the internal work on the roof. What goes on in the roof? How is that made? We'll show that next week.